Part 1. The Great Chamber of the Galactic Council sat deep inside the Xylos Prime space station, a massive ring of metal and crystal orbiting a quiet blue star. Inside, the air was thick with tension. Over 200 alien species filled the curved rows of seats, each group marked by strange colors, odd shapes, or glowing skin. Some breathed methane, others pulsed with slow light, and a few floated silently in anti-gravity bubbles. All of them watched the small human delegation at the center table. Daniel Carter sat straight in his chair, his dark suit neat, his hands folded on the smooth surface. Beside him, Maya Ruiz tapped a quiet rhythm on her datapad, her eyes scanning the latest message from Earth. They had been here for 6 long cycles, nearly 2 Earth months, trying to explain why humanity would not join the Council's war plans. The Krell and the Vorn were fighting over a stretch of empty space near the Theta Expanse, and both sides wanted human help. Not just help, control over human tech, especially the new quantum shielding that kept Earth ships safe from energy weapons, and the neural links that let pilots fly fighters with their thoughts alone. The Council had promised trade deals, protection, even seats on the high command. But Earth's Senate had been clear: no foreign control over human inventions, no forced alliances, and above all, no sending human soldiers to die in someone else's war. Speaker Zorath of the Velnari Confederacy rose from his high-backed chair. His long, silver limbs shimmered under the chamber lights, and his voice came out in a series of low hums translated by the overhead system. The humans continue to insult this council with childish demands. You ask for full control over your technology while expecting the benefits of membership. This is not partnership. This is theft of galactic trust. A murmur rose through the chamber. The Krell delegate, a hulking figure with armored plates along his spine, slammed a heavy fist on his console. Sparks flew. They think they are special because they built fast ships and clever shields. But they are one planet, one species. They cannot stand alone. Daniel didn't flinch. He had heard it all before. Arrogance, naivety, weakness. The same words over and over. But Earth wasn't weak. It was just different. Humans didn't shout. They didn't threaten. They listened, learned, and then acted, often when no one expected it. He stood slowly. The room fell quiet. Every eye, every sensor, every recording drone turned toward him. Maya looked up, her expression calm but watchful. She knew what was coming. "Thank you, Speaker Zorath," Daniel said, his voice steady and clear. "We appreciate the time this council has given us. We also appreciate the offers made. But Earth's position has not changed. We will not surrender control of our science, our ships, or our choices. If that makes us unwelcome here, then we understand." He paused, then added, "We wish you peace in your decisions." Without another word, he turned and walked away from the table. Maya closed her datapad, stood, and followed. Behind them, the rest of the human team, 2 engineers and a linguist, rose and left in silence. No dramatic exit. No slamming doors. Just footsteps on polished floor, growing fainter as they moved toward the exit arch. For 3 full seconds, the chamber stayed utterly still. Then chaos broke loose. The Krell delegate roared in frustration, kicking over his console. The Vorn ambassador shot to her feet, shouting accusations at the Silthari for whispering support to the humans. A small reptilian species from the Outer Rim began broadcasting emergency alerts to their homeworld. Energy fields flickered as delegates activated personal shields, fearing violence. The translation system overloaded, spitting out garbled phrases in 50 languages at once. Outside the chamber, in the wide corridors of Xylos Prime, news of the human walkout spread like fire through dry grass. Traders dropped their data slates. Diplomats ran to secure comms. Security drones powered up, scanning for threats that didn't exist. Panic wasn't caused by weapons or warships, it was caused by silence. By the simple act of humans choosing to leave. Back on Earth, it was early morning in Geneva. Birds sang in the trees near the United Earth Senate building. Citizens walked to work, bought coffee, checked the news. The official broadcast showed calm footage of orbital traffic and clean energy farms. No alarms, no warnings. Just another day. But in a secure room beneath the Senate dome, Admiral Lena Ford watched the live feed from Xylos Prime. She saw the confusion, the fear, the sudden collapse of order. She turned to General Paul Kim beside her and said, "They still don't get it, do they?" Paul shook his head. "They think power is loud. They don't understand quiet." On the Aurora Dawn, a civilian transport ship drifting near Jupiter's orbit, Daniel sat by a small viewport. He sipped water from a recycled cup and stared at the stars. Maya entered the cabin holding 2 protein bars. She handed him one. "They're losing their minds," she said, nodding at the news stream on the wall screen. Footage showed a Krell warship powering up its weapons near a Vorn listening post. "They think we're about to attack." Daniel chewed slowly. "We didn't say a word. We just walked, and that's what scares them," Maya replied. "Because they can't predict us. They've studied every other species for centuries. They know how the Vorn react to threats. They know the Krell always escalate. But humans, we walk away from fights. We build schools after wars. We share tech with enemies. It makes no sense to them." Daniel smiled faintly. "Good. Let them wonder." Far away on the pleasure moon of Lysara, a wealthy merchant named Jorlin Vex watched the same news. He had made billions selling rare earth spices and music files to alien elites. Now he feared it would all vanish. He sent a frantic message to his contact on Mars. "Secure 10 tons of atmospheric recyclers. Pay double, triple if you must. Humans might cut us off." He didn't know Earth had no plans to cut anyone off. But fear didn't need facts. It only needed silence. And in that silence, the galaxy began to unravel. Daniel finished his water and stood. "We did what we came to do," Maya nodded. "Now we wait." And so they did, floating in the quiet dark while the rest of the galaxy screamed into the void, trying to fill the space humans had left behind. Partudina, news of the human walkout spread faster than any ship could fly. Within hours, markets across the galaxy crashed. Traders on Xylos Prime dumped shares of alloy refineries and neural tech firms, fearing Earth would stop all exports. A rumor, started by a nervous clerk in the Krell trade office, claimed humans had already shut down their main quantum shield factories. It wasn't true, but no one waited to check. Panic moved quicker than truth. On the orbital hub of Nova Ceres, Maya Ruiz stood in the Earth Embassy's quiet briefing room. Outside, alien ships circled like hungry birds, their comms flashing with urgent requests. Every species wanted answers. Were humans leaving the Council for good? Would they side with the Vorn? Had they activated secret weapons? Maya had heard it all. She gave no replies. Earth's orders were clear. Silence was the message. Back on Earth, life went on as usual. Children went to school. Farmers harvested crops under open skies. Factories hummed, building ships, shields, and medical units just like before. But in Geneva, the United Earth Senate held closed-door meetings. They knew the walkout would cause chaos, and they were ready for it. Not with weapons, but with patience. Humanity had learned long ago that fear made others act foolishly, and foolish actions created openings. On the Aurora Dawn, Daniel Carter watched the news feeds from his cabin. He saw Krell warships shifting position near the Theta Expanse. He saw Vorn diplomats accusing each other of secret deals with Earth. He saw small trade worlds begging for reassurance. None of it surprised him. Humans had spent centuries dealing with their own wars and misunderstandings. Now the galaxy was having its first real taste of human unpredictability. The Krell High Command issued a red alert. They claimed Earth was preparing to support the Vorn with hidden fleets. Their evidence? None, but their fear was real. They moved 3 battle groups toward the Helios Rim, a quiet zone where human freighters often passed. The Vorn, seeing this, thought the Krell were about to strike Earth first. So they sent their own ships to protect human colonies without asking. Neither side contacted Earth. They just acted, assuming the worst. Meanwhile, on a dusty mining outpost near the edge of known space, a human freighter named the Starling landed to deliver food and medicine. The local Silthari governor, a calm elder named Olan, met the pilot himself. The pilot, a quiet man named Leo Grant, handed over the supplies with a simple nod. No speeches. No demands. Just help, Olan asked. Are your people at war? Leo shook his head. Not that I know of. We're just doing our job. That small moment was recorded by a Silthari news drone. Within a day, it played on screens across neutral systems. Here was a human, calm and kind, while the great powers shouted and pointed weapons. It made people think. Back on Nova Ceres, Maya finally broke her silence, but only to one group. The Silthari ambassador requested a private meeting. In a small garden room filled with soft light and real earth plants, Maya sat across from Olin's daughter, Mira. Mira spoke gently. Why did you leave the talks? Maya looked at her hands. Because we were being asked to give up who we are. Our science, our choices, our future. We won't trade that for promises. Mira nodded slowly. Other species see strength and control. You see strength and freedom? Yes, Maya said. And we trust our people to use that freedom wisely. Mira left with more questions than answers, but also with hope. The Silthari began quietly telling others, maybe humans weren't a threat. Maybe they were just different. On Earth, Admiral Lena Ford reviewed fleet reports. All human ships were on routine patrol. No weapons charged, no alerts raised. Yet across the galaxy, alien sensors reported suspicious activity near every human outpost. A cargo ship loading supplies became a covert arms transfer. A science probe near Neptune was called a scout for invasion. Fear twisted everything, even the Orlan hegemony, a proud and ancient race that rarely showed emotion, began broadcasting emergency drills to its citizens. Their message warned of sudden strategic shifts by non-aligned powers. Everyone knew they meant Earth. Parents hugged their children tighter. Schools practiced shelter drills, all because humans had walked out of a meeting. Daniel received a message from Geneva. It was short. Hold course. Let them spiral, he understood. The longer Earth stayed quiet, the more the galaxy would turn on itself. The Krell and Vorn, once united against a common enemy, now eyed each other with suspicion. Each thought the other had made a secret deal with humans. Accusations flew. Trade routes closed. Minor allies switched sides overnight. In a crowded bar on Xylos Prime, a Krell officer got into a fight with a Vorn merchant over a rumor that Earth had given the Vorn new shield tech. Blasters were drawn. Security drones intervened, but the damage was done. Trust was breaking. Maya, watching the incident on a newsfeed, sighed. They're doing our work for us. Paul Kim, now stationed on Luna Base, agreed. Let them exhaust themselves. We'll be here when they're ready to talk like adults. And Earth waited. No grand speeches. No threats. Just silence, steady and deep. On Mars, engineers continued building the new research station. On Titan, scientists studied alien soil samples sent by friendly worlds. On Earth, a little girl looked up at the night sky and asked her father if the stars were angry. He smiled and said, "No, sweetheart. The stars don't care. But people do, and sometimes they just need to calm down." Far away, aboard the Aurora Dawn, Daniel stared at the same stars. He knew the galaxy would eventually realize humans weren't enemies. They weren't puppets either. They were partners, but only on their own terms. For now, the silence spoke louder than any weapon ever could. Part 3. 48 hours after the humans walked out, the galaxy was in full panic. What started as confusion had grown into something wilder, something close to madness. On the trade moon of Lysara, a merchant prince named Jorlan Vex offered 10 times the normal price for a single shipment of Earth-made atmospheric recyclers. He believed Earth was about to cut off all exports. His fear spread. Soon, every trader with human goods raised prices, hoarded stock, or sold fake last-batch items to desperate buyers. The rumor that humans had activated secret defense satellites along the Helios Rim wasn't true, but it didn't matter. 2 Krell freighter convoys changed course to avoid the area, sailing instead through the Razor Drift, a lawless zone full of pirates and broken ships. 1 convoy was attacked. 3 ships were lost. The Krell blamed Earth for forcing them into danger. The Vorn said the Krell were lying to cover their own poor planning. No one asked Earth what really happened. On Nova Ceres, Maya Ruiz sat in her office, sipping tea from a chipped Earth mug. Her desk was covered in message requests. Over 50 species had sent private pleas for clarification. Some begged. Some demanded. A few even threatened. She read them all but answered none. Earth's silence was not weakness, it was strategy. Every unanswered message made the galaxy more nervous, and every nervous move revealed who could be trusted and who could not. Back on Earth, life remained calm. In Chicago, kids played soccer in the parks. In Mumbai, street vendors sold fresh fruit under warm sun. In Oslo, scientists tested a new clean energy reactor that could power a small city for a year. None of it stopped. None of it changed. But across the stars, alien news channels showed looping footage of the empty human seats in the council chamber. As if the absence itself was a weapon, the Orlan hegemony, once proud and unshakable, now held daily briefings for its citizens. Their calm voices cracked with worry as they spoke of unpredictable human maneuvers and possible strategic withdrawal from galactic affairs. Parents kept their children home from school. Factories slowed production, all because Earth had simply left a meeting. Then came the worst mistake. The Krell High Command, convinced Earth was helping the Vorn, launched a surprise strike on a small listening post near the Theta Expanse. They claimed it was a human Vorn spy station. It wasn't. It was just a Vorn weather monitor used to track solar flares. But the Krell didn't wait for proof. They fired. The Vorn responded instantly. Within hours, 3 Vorn warships surrounded a Krell mining station in neutral space and disabled its shields. No lives were lost, but the message was clear. The border conflict had reignited, and Earth was being blamed for it. In the council chamber, emergency sessions turned into shouting matches. Delegates accused each other of leaking secrets to humans. The Silthari tried to calm things down, but their soft voices were drowned out by blaring alarms and angry energy pulses from agitated species. The translation system failed again, mixing words so that peace offer became death threat in half the languages spoken. Maya finally stepped out of silence, but only once. She sent a single public message broadcast on all neutral channels. Earth has not taken sides. Earth has not activated weapons. Earth is watching. That short message spread like water on dry ground. Some dismissed it as a trick. Others clung to it like hope. The Silthari ambassador replayed it 3 times during a private meeting with her council. They are not hiding, she told them. They are waiting for us to stop acting like children. On the Aurora dawn, Daniel watched the Krell-Vorn skirmish unfold on his screen. He felt no joy, only sadness. They're fighting over ghosts, he said to no one. Meanwhile, on a quiet mining colony called Haven 7, something small but important happened. The colony sat between Krell and Vorn space, officially neutral but often ignored. When the fighting started, supply ships stopped coming. Food ran low. Medicine ran out. The colonists, mostly human and Silthari workers, prepared for the worst. Then a lone freighter appeared on their scanners. It was old, patched with mismatched metal, and flew no flags. It landed without asking permission. Out stepped Leo Grant, the retired engineer who had delivered aid weeks before. This time he brought crates of food, water purifiers, and medical kits, all marked with Earth's simple blue and white symbol. He said nothing grand. Just, "We heard you were in trouble." The colony leader, a Silthari woman named Tella, hugged him. News drones captured the moment. Within hours, the footage was everywhere. A human, alone, helping strangers while the great powers shot at each other. The image cut through the noise. For the first time in days, people saw humans not as a threat, but as neighbors. Back on Earth, Admiral Lena Ford saw the footage and smiled. "That's the message we needed." Paul Kim nodded. No speeches, no weapons, just help. Even the Krell paused their war plans for a moment. Their young soldiers, watching the feed in their barracks, whispered to each other. Why would they do that if they were planning to attack us? The Vorn High Council held an emergency meeting. One elder said, "Perhaps we misunderstood. Perhaps Earth walks away not because they are arrogant, but because they refuse to play our games." On Xylos Prime, the panic began to crack. Traders lowered prices. Ships returned to normal routes. The rumor mill slowed, not because the truth had won, but because a single act of kindness had reminded everyone that humans were still people. Maya received a new message. This one was different. It came from the Silthari, the Orlan, and 3 smaller species. They asked for a quiet meeting. No cameras, no records, just talk. She accepted. As night fell over Nova Ceres, she walked to the garden room again. The air smelled of earth soil and blooming jasmine. She knew the worst of the spiral was over. The galaxy had spun itself dizzy, and now it was starting to slow. And when it finally stopped, Earth would still be there, calm, ready, and free. Part of the crisis reached its peak on the 7th day after the human walkout. The Krell and Vorn were exchanging fire near the Theta Expanse, each side blaming the other and Earth for starting the fight. A Krell cruiser had fired on a Vorn scout ship, mistaking it for a human stealth vessel. The Vorn retaliated by jamming all Krell comms in the sector. Civilian ships fled. Trade lanes froze. And still, Earth said nothing. But then something changed. It started with Leo Grant's quiet delivery to Haven 7. That small act of help spread through the galaxy like a soft wind. People began to question the panic. If humans were planning war, why were they feeding miners? If they were hiding weapons, Why were their freighters still flying open routes with cargo logs anyone could read? The Silthari were the first to act. They called for a ceasefire between the Krell and Vorn, not as a demand but as a request. Before we destroy each other over fear, their elder said in a public broadcast, let us ask the humans what they truly want. The words were simple, but they carried weight. Other neutral species echoed them. Even the Orlan hegemony, once so proud, sent a quiet note to both warring sides. Stop. Think. The Krell High Command hesitated. Their young officers had seen the footage of Leo Grant. Their traders were losing money every hour the lanes stayed closed. The Vorn, too, felt the pressure. Their people were asking why they were fighting a war based on rumors. Slowly, painfully, both sides pulled back their ships. The shooting stopped. The silence that followed was heavier than the noise. On Nova Ceres, Maya Ruiz received the message she had been waiting for. The Silthari, the Orlan, and 5 other mid-tier species requested a private meeting with Earth. No council oversight. No recordings, just talk. She accepted at once. She met them in the same garden room under soft lights and real Earth trees. No guards, no screens. Just chairs in a circle. Mira of the Silthari spoke first. We were afraid of you, she said. Not because you were strong, but because we did not understand your silence. Maya nodded. Silence isn't emptiness. It's space. Space to think. Space to choose? The Orlan delegate, a tall being with smooth gray skin, leaned forward. We assumed your walkout meant you would act alone. But you did nothing. Why? Because we didn't need to, Maya said. You all did the work for us. You showed who panics, who lies, and who listens. We learned more in 6 days of silence than in 6 months of talks. The room fell quiet. Then slowly the delegates began to speak, not as rivals but as partners. They admitted their fear. They shared their doubts, and for the first time they asked Earth not what it would give, but what it needed to feel safe. Back on the Aurora Dawn, Daniel received a secure message from Geneva. The Senate had approved a new proposal. It included mutual defense, shared research, and open trade, but with one condition. Earth kept full control over its technology and the right to leave any agreement at any time. No exceptions. He read it twice, then sent a reply. Ready when they are. Meanwhile, on Earth, life continued. In Nairobi, students built a solar-powered water purifier, using open-source human designs. In Buenos Aires, musicians played songs that had traveled to 3 alien worlds. In Vancouver, engineers tested a new shield prototype that could protect entire cities from solar storms. None of it was secret. All of it was shared, freely, openly, with anyone who asked nicely. That openness became Earth's quiet power. The Krell and Vorn, now embarrassed by their own rash actions, sent envoys to Luna Station. They didn't come with demands. They came with questions. Will you mediate? They asked Daniel when he met them in a simple conference room with no flags, no weapons, just coffee and water. I can't speak for Earth, Daniel said, but I can listen. And I can tell you what Earth values. Fairness, honesty, and peace that isn't bought with fear. The envoys exchanged glances. They had expected threats. Instead, they got truth. News of the meeting spread. Hope returned. Markets stabilized. Ships resumed their routes. On Xylos Prime, the council chamber sat empty for the first time in centuries. No one wanted to return to the old ways of shouting and suspicion. Instead, a new idea took root. What if the galaxy didn't need a single ruling body? What if it needed a network of equals? Species that respected each other's choices even when they didn't understand them. Maya and Daniel were called back to Geneva, not for orders but for planning. The Senate wanted their advice on the next step. They're ready to listen, Paul Kim said as they walked through the garden outside the Senate dome. But are they ready to trust? Trust isn't given, Maya replied. It's earned, and we've shown we're worth it. On Luna Station, the first draft of the new agreement was written. It had no grand title, no flashy promises, just clear terms. Earth would share knowledge, join joint patrols, and help in crises, but only as a partner, never as a subject. The Krell and Vorn read it. They argued. They debated. But this time they didn't accuse. They asked, and slowly they agreed. Daniel stood by the observation window, watching Earth rise over the lunar horizon. Blue, green, calm. Maya joined him, holding 2 cups of real coffee. They thought walking away was weakness, she said. He smiled. Now they know it was strength, and in that moment the spiral ended. Not with a bang, not with a treaty signed in fire, but with a quiet understanding that sometimes the bravest thing a species can do is walk away and wait for the rest of the world to catch up. Part 5. 6 weeks after the humans walked out of the Galactic Council chamber, the galaxy gathered again, not in the grand, echoing hall of Xylos Prime, but in a modest conference room on Mars. The walls were plain white. The chairs were simple. There were no towering thrones, no glowing banners, no rows of armed guards. Just a round table, a water dispenser, and a window that looked out onto red dust and Earth hanging bright in the sky. At the table sat representatives from 23 species, including the Krell, the Vorn, the Silthari, the Orlan, and 12 others who had once stayed silent but now wanted a voice. And at one side, calm and unhurried, sat Daniel Carter and Maya Ruiz, wearing plain gray suits with no badges, no ranks, just the small blue Earth pin on their lapels. This was not a council meeting. It was a conversation. The document before them was called the Mars Accord. It was short, only 12 pages. It said Earth would share its quantum shielding research with partners who agreed to peaceful use. It said human engineers would help build joint early warning systems for solar flares and asteroid threats. It said Earth would join a new crisis response task force, but only if human observers had the right to speak, and to walk away if the mission went against Earth's values. Most importantly, it said Earth kept full control over its inventions, its ships, and its choices. No species, not even the strongest, could demand access. No war could be fought in Earth's name without Earth's clear consent. The Krell delegate, a younger officer named Tarn, who had replaced the old war-minded general, read the final clause twice. He looked up. "You still won't promise to fight with us?" Daniel shook his head. "We'll stand with you if the cause is just. But we won't be told when to stand or why. That's not partnership. That's control." Tarn was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded. "Fair enough." The Vorn ambassador, a woman named Lyra with soft eyes and steady hands, added, "We spent weeks fearing you. Now we see you were never the threat." "We were." Maya smiled slightly. "Fear makes everyone a little dangerous." One by one, the species agreed. Not because they had to, but because they wanted to. They had learned the hard way that forcing Earth only made Earth disappear, and the silence that followed was worse than any war. Outside the room, on the surface of Mars, a small crowd had gathered. Human colonists, alien diplomats, even a few curious children watched the building through clear domes. They didn't cheer. They didn't chant. They just waited, hopeful. Back on Earth, people went about their day. In Tokyo, a teacher showed her class a live feed of the signing. In Cairo, engineers tested a new water recycling system based on Silthari designs. In Rio, musicians played a song that mixed human guitar with Vorn harmonic tones. The galaxy was changing not with explosions, but with shared meals, open labs, and quiet trust. When the last signature was added to the Mars Accord, no one clapped. Daniel simply stood, shook hands with Tarn and Lyra, and said, "Thank you for listening." Later, he and Maya walked to the observation dome on the edge of the Mars colony. The sun was setting over the red plains, casting long shadows. Earth glowed in the darkening sky, blue and whole. Maya handed Daniel a cup of real Colombian coffee, smuggled past 3 customs checkpoints just for this moment. He took a sip and sighed. "They thought we'd break under pressure." She leaned against the glass. "Instead, we just walked, and they couldn't handle the silence. Now the silence was gone. In its place was something better, understanding." In the days that followed, the old Galactic Council did not dissolve. But it changed. The Grand Chamber on Xylos Prime was repurposed as a museum. The real work moved to smaller rooms, round tables, and open channels. Species that once shouted now listened. Deals that once demanded now asked. Earth opened its research stations to joint teams. Human doctors worked alongside Orlan healers to cure a rare lung sickness on a mining moon. Krell engineers studied Earth's shield tech, not to copy it, but to learn how to build their own better versions. The Vorn shared their deep space navigation maps with human freighters. Trade flowed again, but this time it was fair. Leo Grant, the retired engineer, got a new job. He led a team that delivered solar kits to remote colonies. Human, Silthari, even Krell. He never said much. He just showed up, fixed what was broken, and left with a nod. People started calling him the Quiet Helper. He hated the name, but he didn't complain. On Luna Station, Paul Kim watched the first joint patrol launch, a human frigate flying alongside a Silthari cruiser and a small Vorn scout ship. No weapons charged. No alerts raised. Just 3 ships moving together through the dark. Admiral Lena Ford stood beside him. "We didn't win a war," she said. "We avoided one," Paul nodded, "and taught them that peace isn't weakness." Back on Mars, Daniel and Maya prepared to return to Earth. Their work here was done. As their shuttle lifted off, they looked down at the red planet, now home to gardens, schools, and the first joint alien-human library. They had not shouted. They had not threatened. They had simply walked away when asked to give up who they were. And in doing so, they had shown the galaxy a new kind of strength. The strength to be still, to be patient, and to trust that others would eventually see the truth. Far below, a child on Mars pointed up at the departing shuttle and asked, "Are they heroes?" Her teacher smiled. "No, they're just people who knew when to walk and when to come back." And high above, among the stars, Earth turned quietly in the void, not as a ruler, not as a weapon, but as a friend who had finally been understood.